Hello students, this is the third video in which I am continuing with the story, The Last Lesson. In the first two videos you already know about little Prince, how he hurried to the school, how when he entered the class he realized his teacher was wearing his best dress, and he also noticed that many influential people, many old people were sitting there on the back benches. At that time, his teacher announced that that was their last lesson of French because there was an order from Berlin that no longer French will be taught in the schools and German has to be taught. Now, as soon as Franz heard this, he was surprised. He felt sorry that why he hadn't paid attention when his teacher used to teach, why he hadn't taken his lessons seriously. Okay, and this was not the case with friends. Even the grown-up must be thinking the same. And this was the last lesson for the teacher who had worked for 40 years. Okay, and when Franz is unable to answer the question related to participles, M. Heppel says that it is not his fault. It is his parents' fault because they used to send him to work to earn money instead of sending him regularly to the school. It was his fault as well and Himmel's fault as well because he used to ask friends to go and water the plants. So they were, everyone, means he was repenting. Why didn't he use the opportunity to teach the language? And then he goes on explaining that how French is the best language in the world and how people should never forget their mother tongue because if they do so, they will be enslaved by others. Okay. Now, and then he opened the grammar and read different lessons. And for the first time, Franz was paying attention in the class and he listened carefully and he explained everything with patience, his teacher. And it seemed that the teacher who had taught for 40 years wanted to teach almost everything in that last lesson of that day. Okay? And after the grammar, he had a lesson in writing and he gave new copies to everyone in which in a beautiful handwriting it was written France, Alsace, France, Alsace. They looked like little flags fluttering everywhere. And everyone was writing for the last time in their own mother tongue. Everyone was set to work and it was very quiet at that time. And the only sound that could be heard was the sound made while writing on the papers, the scratching sound. And even the pigeons cooed very low on the roof. And Franz thought, will the people make them sing in German too? Even the pigeons? See how beautifully the thought has been put, isn't it? People are so strange that they can ask others to give orders like this. But can we give orders to birds, trees, rivers, mountains? No. What is their language? How they will not speak that? But human beings can do such things. Franz was thinking. His little head had that thought in a different way. And whenever he was writing and he was looking across his teacher, sitting motionless without moving and gazing at one thing at another as if wanted to fix in mind how everything looked in that little school room. You imagine the state of that teacher, how sad he must be. Okay, 40 years he had taught there, he had seen the same garden, he had seen the same trees, same plants grow into big trees, and how his heart was broken to live it and to go from there forever. He could hear his sister's voice. Maybe she was packing everything in the trunk because they had to leave the city the next day. After writing, they had a lesson in history and they did that, and that was the last lesson. And that time the church struck 12. And that time the trumpets of the Prussian army who was stationed there, could be heard. And at that time Hamel stood up and said, he was unable to speak, he was choked, he was taken aback by the emotion. And then he turned to the blackboard and took a piece of chalk and with all his might means strength, might means strength, putting all his strength, what did he write on the board? He writes, "Vive la France, vive la France." What does "vive la France" mean? Long live France. And then he stopped, leaned his head against the wall, without a word, made a gesture to us with his hand. "School is dismissed, you may go." He allowed everyone to go. He was unable to utter a single word. So this is how the last lesson was taught by M. Hamel to friends, to other children, and to many other people who had come to pay their respect to the teacher who had taught 40 years French language, and who had to live it, everything, and had to go. Just because the French language was replaced by German. A beautiful story which talk about loving your mother tongue, which talk about patriotism. Hope you might have understood the story and enjoyed it too. Thank you.